How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.
My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts. Here I am. Had a little accident right before everything started. Oh my Lord. I'll tell you about it when we start the show. But today's going to be a good show. Oh my Lord. All right, so Terrace is proud for what he did. Democrats can't seem to get their hands around what it actually is. And we're going to talk about all this. So let's get started. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. All right, it's just a disaster, and I'll tell you exactly what happened. Look, there's total disclosure on this show. I was not going to do a show tonight. That's why I got started late, because I've been going nonstop for, again, like every couple of weeks now, because I'm doing this audio book, and the only time I can actually sit down and do this is at night when it's quiet, when there's nothing going on around, when the cars aren't honking their horns and stuff outside. So even though I have an enclosed studio in my apartment, it's still any least little bit of noise gets in. So since I've been doing that, when something happens, we keep having these big stories that I get called for on the radio and stuff. I'm not getting any sleep for like 2-3 days. And literally last night I slept, I don't know, I took a nap. I went to sleep for about 45 minutes before I had to do a show this morning at 7 a.m. and then just progressive radio shows after that all day. And I came home and I was losing my voice, and I just was exhausted. I mean, I reached that point of exhaustion where I just couldn't do it anymore. And so Rico and I took a big nap, and then I woke up and I talked to a good friend of mine, and they said, listen, you should do the show. This is a big news day. So I was like, okay. So I get everything ready. Hadn't even eaten anything all day. I eat real quick. I fed Rico. I made myself 2 drinks to help my voice. One was green tea. This was completely full a minute ago. And you're going to laugh, but this is bone broth from chicken. Look, I'm Southern. That's what we do. And so I made these 2 drinks for myself. And we had 25 seconds left on the countdown. And I went to pull the mic towards me, and I spilt. See how that was full all over where my whole setup is right here. I think I got it all. But I guess we'll know. Look, it's green tea. It's got to be good for computers, right? It's good for us. I don't know. So anyway, that's why you had nobody on the screen there for a little while. And it is what it is, as they say. So we're going to bring Scott Ulinger on here in a minute, because he actually worked in, and I'm going to let him tell you this exactly, Tajikistan. And that is right, that's very close to where this attacker was from yesterday, or 2 days ago, and this is now is it yesterday? Yesterday. So let me pull up my lower third here. Boom, there we go. So he's going to come on and talk about the reality of Islam over there, and the reality of I don't use the word radical, how fundamental they are, how religious they are in that area. Now, here's one thing that I've been getting all day, and I wrote on the title of this show, I wrote that the attacker was consumed by propaganda, and he was, according to reports here, and I'm going to bring this up here. It says here, this is on FoxNews.com, and this is coming from a good friend of mine, Catherine Herridge, who I think is one of the only real news people left in journalism these days. And they're reporting that federal prosecutors said Wednesday that I don't remember how to say his last name. I think it's Saipov. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm killing. I'm just going to call him the attacker. So the attacker was consumed by hate and twisted ideology. Okay, right away, the federal prosecutor is releasing, and that's a quote, consumed with hate and a twisted ideology. See, right off the bat, they're trying to make this into something that it is just not. It is not it is a twisted ideology. There's no doubt about it. But they're trying to make it sound automatically by this statement by the prosecutor that he is a part of some radicalized small group with a twisted ideology. That's just not true. It's not true. This individual is a Muslim, and he is a very religious Muslim. And the people that I have met in this and encountered in this war on terror, and I can't go into details about this, but I did sit for 24 hours with somebody who had been a part of a plot to blow up New York City. And this was many, many years ago. And this individual, I actually had a great conversation with him all night. But he was very religious, and very steeped in the superstitions and the writings of Islam. I mean, so it wasn't as if this guy was some kind of Freddy Krueger individual who was dead set on seeing blood and killing. That's not the case. That's not what it was. And so when they put out things, quotes like this, that the individual is consumed by hate, I will explain that to you, and a twisted ideology. Once again, 16 years into this fight, we are still not talking about the reality of what is going on here. Hold on a second here. Rico's trying to, never mind. He gets down there and gets curled up and everything. So, for those who don't know who Rico is, he's my 17-and-a-half-year-old Jack Russell that is a big part of this show, and continuously, as soon as I start talking on the show, he can't seem to make enough noise, so that's the way that rolls. So, this individual is a religious person. He is not, and I know this is going to sound strange, folks, he is not an evildoer that is hell-bent on just randomly killing, such as I believe the case was with the shooter in Vegas, or there's been mass murders, school shooters, these types of people. Typically, they're just killing to be killing. There's no specific group of person or ideology that's propelling them forward. Look at Columbine, Klebold and Harris. Those two individuals planned for over a year to kill. That was a twisted, two twisted minds that got together. One guy was a psychopath. And the other guy was a follower to the extent of just devastating, and both of them had terrible lives, and they were evil people. Now, I'm not saying this guy's not evil that attacked New York City, but you have to understand where that guy's coming from. He is convicted in his heart with, first and foremost, by his religion. Once somebody gets convicted in their heart by their religion, I know I've been a Christian my whole life, but when I technically got saved, and for those people that aren't Christians may not understand what that's all about, that's when you have the realization that there's more to this life than just yourself, and you realize that there was a sacrifice that was paid for you, that those sacrifices didn't end 2,000 years ago with the burning of animals on an altar and wheat and things like that, that there was a sacrifice, that God's Son came into the world, and he was sacrificed for all of us. That's what we believe in the Christian religion, and we believe that Jesus was a Jew and that he came in and his blood was shed for our souls, basically, to pay the price. And you have to believe that, and that's what we feel, and that's what the Bible says. So, that being said, when a person becomes very religious and they're new in the religion of Christianity, or they're not new in Christianity, but they just have a deep revival of their religion, they are susceptible. They're susceptible to cults. They're susceptible not to violence necessarily, but to manipulation of their beliefs. It's the same with any type of deep belief. When you become ingrained in it and you become open to it, you're susceptible to guidance down a dark path by nefarious people. They're always there. They always exist. That's how they gain power. And what happens with individuals like this guy is that they're not crazy. They don't set out to be evil. They are in their religion, which is Islam, and they get religion. They get religious. And then they get indoctrinated here's what's twisted about Islam. You have the foundation of Islam, the very foundation. The man who started this 1,400 years ago believed in these types of terroristic attacks, carried them out. Because even back then and even today, you can give massive amounts of warriors the ability to drive a truck, and they can go kill people and carry out fear. It's much more difficult to give them all knives and guns and airplanes and conventional weaponry so they can go and fight. That is expensive, and it's hard to coordinate, and it's not covert. It's not unconventional. Muhammad practiced this. It's an effective way to fight. Trust me, folks, if the special forces in this country were released, as they should be, on the globe to clean up this mess, it would be done in a rapid fashion like you have never seen before. And there'd be unconventional, there'd be things that would, I'm sure that in some cases they would say is unethical, but it would get the job done, and in 2 years you probably there wouldn't even be an inkling of fundamental Islam. So individuals like this get ingrained in this, they get their religion, they start to get very spiritual, and because they're Muslim, what happens is, and I'm being frank with everybody, I'm not a hater. I have Muslim friends. I am not out, and I'm not setting out to tell somebody they can't worship what they want. This is a free country. You can worship what you want, and I'm not here to bash people. But I'm not going to pull punches when it comes to the truth about this religion. I'm not. I would say the same thing about somebody who is gay. I have lots of gay friends, and they're steeped in the gay movement. I believe that the gay movement utilizes gay people for political reasons that are not going to benefit them as much as they are going to subvert the rest of the country. And I believe there's evidence in that, in feminism, in Black Lives Matter. I believe in all these different groups you see Marxist footprints all over. Not even footprints, literally they're Marxists. And if you look a little bit deeper into who they really are and who put these things together. So it's not just Islam. I'm having a realistic discussion about any of these things anytime one of these things springs up. White supremacy, for instance. White supremacy will target and focus on sometimes, I'm not going to lie about this, patriots who care deeply about this country. And they will target those people, and they will slowly draw them in to make them think as though groups like Black Lives Matter or the gay movement represent all gay people, represent all black people, and that's not true. And they'll build a hatred in people. They'll indoctrinate them in. So each one of these groups, when you find yourself in a remarkable area in your belief system and you're truly seeking for answers, you have to be very careful, because nefarious people will strike at you. Now, the difference between all those other things and when I talk about Islam is that the foundation of Islam is ripe with this. It is this. This is the same belief system. This is the same tactics, techniques, and procedures that were utilized by Muhammad and his followers 1,400 years ago. So when somebody like this individual gets religious and they are seeking the truth and seeking the answers, they're most likely going to go one of two places: to a progressive Muslim mosque where they've learned to coexist, which fundamental Islam does not coexist. I don't care what anybody says. Fundamental Islam that was practiced 1,400 years ago, that is practiced by these types of people, is not progressive. It did not coexist. It conquered and then allowed others to coexist within Islam. Big difference there. Islam under Muhammad did not coexist under other belief systems. It was convert or die. So that passion, that religious fervor, or the zealots that were ingrained in that in one shape or form never went away from the time of Muhammad. There has been groups of people in the Middle East where that has continued to flow, and every so often throughout history, it will raise its ugly head and will draw large amounts of people in. Now, at one point it was in the Philippines under, I forget what the general's name was, but they fought it there. Thomas Jefferson faced Islam in the Barbary Wars. This has been something that, look, the song that we sing about the Marine Corps' hymn talks about battles that were fought against Islam in the very beginning of the Marine Corps. This is nothing new. And so all along, as Islam has been pushed out and gone into other countries, and it's progressed and for different reasons, either they found a place in Iran or they found a place in Iraq or Afghanistan. In other places, Islam flowed and became more secular and was able to coexist. But in other places, it didn't. And so when you have an individual like this who finds religion, he's going to do one of two things. He's going to progress to a secular, more open type of mosque where he can live and have a family and coexist within a country that may not be Muslim. Or they're going to move towards the more fundamental belief in Islam, which is if an imam or a group of people are sticking to the Quran and the Hadith and all these other writings and the superstitions, they're going to be fundamental, and they're going to be closer to what we call a jihad than what they are progressive. That's just the facts. You can't argue with that. That's why we continue to have these attacks all around the world. It's not because they're taking people in and making them Manchurian candidates, and one day they say, goobly goobly, and all of a sudden they're all of a sudden crazy. Hold on one second. I'm getting a... So, do you understand where I'm coming from and why I'm detailing this so much? Because that's the truth. If Governor Cuomo came out and said, okay, here's the deal. If we had a progressive imam that came out and said, here's the deal. If we had communist Mayor de Blasio, who is never going to do this, came out and said this, the people would say, I get it now. I understand. But that's not what they're going to do. That's not how they work. That's not the way this functions in politics. The liberals, and listen, it's not just the liberals. I'm going to talk about John McCain in a second, which I didn't put this on the title of the show, but John McCain has completely flipped his lid, and this guy has got to go. He has to go. If there's any way to impeach this guy, he should be impeached. So, but I'll talk about that in a second. The Democrats, and by and large, really the globalists in the Republican Party, the establishment in the Republican Party, they are out of their mind. They will not say today, the Cuomo, I don't even know the exact quote, but was talking about a lone wolf and this evil individual. The guy has professed over and over already in the past 24 hours that he is a part of ISIS. And remember, ISIS, you don't have to have, there's not a boot camp that you go through. You don't get a membership card that says, I'm a proud member of ISIS. It's fundamental Islam. If you become religious and you live here versus there, and you feel that you believe what they believe in a caliphate, and you believe in an Islamic State, and you believe in global domination, then you're in. And if you never meet them, but you look at their propaganda, you study their videos, you listen to what their preachings and their teachings are, and then you act, you are acting on behalf of this ideology. There's no two ways about it. It's no such thing as a lone wolf. You are an operative of fundamental Islam, and that's what happened. That's what happened yesterday. So you're not going to get this out of these people. Mayor de Blasio and Governor Cuomo and the police commissioner here in New York City, none of them educated the American people yesterday. The first terrorist attack to consume a life in this city since 9/11, 16 years later. Now think about that, folks. 16 years have gone by. This grand war against Islam has occurred. Well, they don't say Islam, terrorism, which is ridiculous. You're going to fight a tactic? That's like saying the global war on bombings. All right? It's not the terrorism. It's not the global war on terror. It is a global war on Islam. They're not going to say that. For 16 years, they haven't said it. For 16 years, they've told you, we're not going to let them get us. This is Mayor de Blasio. For like 15 minutes, he stood up there, talked about how much he loves the NYPD. Really? You love the NYPD, de Blasio? I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. So you're not getting the truth out of them. You're not getting lessons. Things aren't changing. And in fact, I'll go as far to say that things are worse than they were on 9/11. Because on 9/11, things were complacent. But now we have had 16 years of people telling us you can't feel this way. You are an Islamophobic if you feel that way. You can't say this. You can't say that. You can't call them this, or else you're going to be pulled off social media. You won't be on TV. All of it is propaganda. Now, this individual, he had, let me see here. He had thousands. He had 90 videos on his phone. This is his phone, right? 90 videos and 3,800, that's 3,800 photos on one of his 2 cell phones. Many of them ISIS-related pieces of propaganda, including images of prisoners being beheaded, shot, and run over by a tank. And let me tell you something. Speaking of running over, this is yesterday. That's him right there. That's the truck with his little rubber gun that he's got in his hand right here. Had I been down there, because I used to work right up 2 blocks from there when I was in the FBI, I would have ran right over that guy, even if I was in my Suburban now. So, here's the bottom line on this part of the show. The propaganda that is out there, you're not going to stop it because nobody wants to get on in line and do the right thing and stop this stuff. The ability for ISIS and other groups that are fundamental Muslims to push out their propaganda is not going to be stopped because we don't have politicians that are focused on that. Just like immigration, they're not focused on that. Just like trying to screen people properly, they're not focused on that. Trump is the only one focused on it, and his plan is not complete. The propaganda is going to get to this guy. He's going to start to believe, and this is where they do become, they bloodlust and they get a little bit out there, is that he believes he's doing the right thing by killing people and by making it more vicious and being a great warrior, that he is going to receive his rewards. His family will receive rewards in heaven. These are religious zealots. They truly believe this. What Islam has to realize is that the foundation of their religion is violence. Islam must realize that. And they either reform or they stand against the world and say, this is who we are. And therefore the world goes to war. We live under a veil of make-believe, folks. Just like Vegas, when you see it looks like marble, that's not grease, all right? That's Vegas. You punch it, your hand's going to go through it because it's probably drywall, made to look like marble. We live under a similar illusion in this world that all religions are good at heart. They're not. That enemies are clearly defined. They are not. That enemies will act in accordance to military law and the laws of war. They will not. The laws of war are something that have been made up by modern day aristocrats and educators and politicians who either don't see the reality or they want to paint a pretty picture so people will elect them. It's all a lie. This isn't a conspiracy. It's true. Islam needs to realize this. If you're a Muslim and you're watching this show, rather than argue with me, you should probably take a step back and actually think about the reality of what's being told to you. I think I'm frozen on Facebook. Let me know if I am. It looks like I am. Stand by. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Nope, frozen again. Huh, looks like they're freezing me out here. So, folks, again, bottom line on this. We need to, in this country, it's imperative that not only we become aware that things like if you're at a concert, you hear popping, it's probably not going to be fireworks at a concert. The chances are better that it's going to be a gunshot. So you better react as though it's gunshots. If you're riding down a bike path and you see a vehicle running people over, it is not a prank. It's not a prank. And you need to think that way. You need to react as though this is deadly. I'm out of here. Or I've got to warn people. You know, you have to think this is reality. And here's how it's made easy. If you contemplate this stuff now, that's the first thing. That's why I wrote this book that you keep seeing scrolling across the screen right here, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. You can get it on Amazon. It's coming out in December. It's already back up to the top of the charts now and is number one in one category. It was number one in two categories today, but now it's number one in one. Everybody needs a copy of this because I'll teach you exactly that, how to look at yourself from an attacker and not be paranoid, but just like you would if you were looking to get a new babysitter. You're not just going to hire anybody. You're going to do your research. Well, this is the same thing. I'm helping you learn how to do research on your life so you realize where you could possibly be a victim in one of these things, and I teach you how to avoid that from looking at it from the attacker's point of view. It's that simple. The other thing, before I go on to Scott Eulinger, who's going to come on now, is you have to realize this is Islam. Islam has to realize this is Islam. It's fundamental Islam. It's not going away. It's only going to get worse. Because you see what this guy had, a phone, and he had all this propaganda. He got bloodlust just from the phone. He was indoctrinated to believe, which Islam teaches, the more religious that you get and the more you start to understand and interpret the words of the Quran and all the other writings and the superstitions, you will become more and more fixated on jihad. You will become more and more fixated on a global dominance of Islam. You believe it's the truth. That is Islam. There's no two ways around it. Man up and start saying this is what it is and let's deal with it. Either you reform or the problem's going to persist, and eventually there will be a leader that will rise that will go toe to toe with this problem. I mean, there's lots of us out there. It's just whether or not we ever get elected. Make sure that T sits right there. So that's the truth. If you have a problem with that, let me know on Twitter, @JGilliam_SEAL, and on Facebook at Jonathan T. Gilliam. You can drop me an email. You can tell me you want me dead on Twitter or whatever. It is what it is. And I'm not going to back down from that because why? Because it's the truth, folks. And I'm here to tell the truth. I've said this before on this show. I'll say it again. And you should live by this creed. If you have not, or maybe you're in a down spot in your life, we all go through those. Trust me, there's more successful people out there that are depressed and having a difficult time with life than you would ever imagine. And you must realize if you were to die today, if today was your last day to walk on this earth, what is your legacy? And I've said this before. You better realize that this is the only life that you have here and you have a certain amount of time to live. And if somebody doesn't like the fact that I tell the truth and they come at me and my life is over, then I lived a full life and I did what I needed to do. And hopefully that my death would spark some kind of push forward for whatever, you know. The fact is, what I'm trying to say, I've lived a full life. I'm not ashamed of my life. And I've done a tremendous amount of good in my life. Tons of failures. Tons of failures. I've screwed people over. I've bad-mouthed people. I've gossiped. That we all have. We've all fallen short. But I've done so much with the focus of meaning that I'm not going to sway from the truth. It's why I'm here. And once anybody knows that a frogman gets focused on a mission, you're not tearing them away from that mission. And so that's where we are right here. All right. Gosh, I just love looking over here at these comments some of these people have. So here's one thing I do want to say. Toxic 99, great. Toxic 99. I have a feeling you're a troll, but I'm gonna. You said that all religions have killed innocent people throughout history. Here's one thing that you got to understand. Not all religions have killed people for religious reasons. There have been people who subscribe to that religion that have killed. There have been global leaders, such as the Roman Empire, that used Christianity, right? It wasn't Christianity that was killing. It was the Roman Empire to gain power. And they used it accordingly. They went around the globe. Interestingly enough, when you use your religion, whatever seeds that make up the foundation of that religion, even if you're using it nefariously, those seeds will be spread, which is interesting when you think about it. Even when people are doing evil, like let's say they're taking seeds for flowers and shoving them down people's throats to kill them, those seeds will still fall on the ground. Or let's say they're killing people and burying them, burying their bodies, and they're a serial killer, and they always sprinkle seeds in their throat because they're some kind of weirdo, right? Those seeds will still produce beautiful flowers. And that's the thing about warfare. That's the thing about people who, quote unquote, kill in the name of Christianity or other religions, is that they're not really killing, they're not really Christians killing other people. They are power brokers using Christianity in a nefarious way. And interestingly enough, those flowers are still planted. Here's where Islam differs. Islam's foundation is built upon domination. It's built upon the tactic of force. In other words, this is the way and the truth. And if you believe it, great. If you don't believe it, we're going to kill you or you will convert. That's the foundation of Islam. There was nobody spinning that. There was no Roman leader or foreign leader utilizing, it became a fresh convert that was utilizing that ideology. That was Muhammad that used that ideology. So see, there's the difference. There is the difference. And you should take heart of that if you're a Muslim, because at least go back and look at it and study and identify the foundation of your belief. There are plenty of Christian denominations that, although not violent, have been manipulated into believing things that are not in the Bible. They're people that follow whole other books that were written by quote-unquote prophets that lead people away from the Bible. You can automatically assume that that is not of God. That's not of the Christian religion. That is somebody else utilizing the Christian religion to pull people far enough away from it so that they can control them. So yes, this does happen. Yes, people are killed in the name of other religions. But what separates Islam from all those is that Islam is a religion built on warfare, on conquering and domination. It is. If you're liberal and you don't believe me, if you're one of these people that monitor Facebook, I'm not saying anything that you should block me for. I'm challenging you. Go study it yourself. I did. Go study it. If you're Muslim and you want to debate me, I would recommend you go look at the very foundation of your religion and look at it truthfully. Don't come at me with some kind of twist, because you're not going to twist me. I'm not going to bond. The truth is, these same practices that we've seen again and again were practiced 1,400 years ago by the very individual that started this religion. And that's the facts. All right, let me see if I got Scott Eulinger here. Stand by 1 second. I know that I do. Let's see here. Sing amongst yourselves. Well, I thought I had him, so let's search for him. got his title right here. Somebody's calling me. Let's see here. Lars Larson. Yeah, right. You're Lars Larson. Listen. Let these weirdos say what they want. I'll block them in just a second. But you have to realize, folks, what I was talking about, Chuck Schumer, for instance, or we're talking about Mayor de Blasio here in New York City, or Cuomo. These are the weirdos that follow those individuals, okay? So instead of like jumping and arguing with the person, let them say what they want to say and acknowledge it. Not acknowledge it to them, but read it. Understand it. This is the blindness, the ridiculousness, the weirdness that you're dealing with. This Larson wannabe person. This is the reality. You're lost. You're an individual that's a follower. I guarantee you if we were to sit down and we were to go over your career, your resume, your life's goals, the meaning it's in your life, it's a big fat zero. There's no doubt about it because you're a follower. I can tell because of what you say that you've never thought for yourself. How can you go through life not thinking for yourself? Lars? All right, let me go back here. Back on my train of thought here. There it is. Okay. There he is. Stand by for Scott Eulinger.
There you go.
Are you there, buddy? Hey, here you are.
Yeah, I am.
He's got the NASA helmet on. All right, I'm going to pull you up here. Let's see here. I adjusted my camera, so I don't know if you have a light that you can put on there.
I got the light. I have 2 lights. I'll try to move it a little bit closer. Right. It's just to have to be maybe a little bit mood lighting.
No, I actually adjusted my camera, which is good, and I think I can do it here as well. Let's see here. Stand by 1 second here. Yeah, I've just learned how to do this, and with the white balance. That changed it. Oh, that made me look blue. That didn't work out so well. Okay, let's
What?
I think yeah, I think they can see you. Okay. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm just want to get this so people can see. I don't want to let it go.
Sure.
Let's see here. There you go. There's Scott Eulinger. Bam. Okay.
So were you pretty busy today?
Yeah, I started to lose my voice, and speaking of that,
what did you
it was
appear on?
All radio today. All radio.
All radio. Okay.
Yeah, all
Maybe
radio.
Fox you would have been on Fox or something.
Yeah, well,
or Newsmax or something.
You would think. Well, Newsmax I was on yesterday, but it's a long story with Fox. Let's hope I get back on there someday. I'd like to be on there with you someday. I think that you and I, and there's a select other few that when I was on with Tony Schaefer today, it's actually the first time I've ever been on with Tony Schaefer for anything, and I like that guy. I like what he has to say. I like his. I mean, he comes off as a smart ass sometimes, but he is. That's because he's sure of what he's saying. You know. Right. So
I'm not familiar with him really.
He was a colonel, and he was in I don't know exactly what he did, but he was in Intel.
Oh, that's okay. I know he's on Fox a bunch of times, right? Yeah. He is pretty. Yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. I've watched him. I like him. Yeah, he definitely seems to know what he's talking about. Right.
So let's talk about where this individual was from.
Sure.
He was from Uzbekistan.
Right.
And you worked. How close to there did you work?
I worked right next door in Tajikistan. So that's all. It's all Central Asia. Actually, if you want, one thing I actually could do is I could actually pull. I have a map framed on the wall here. I could actually pull it off and show you the map of Uzbekistan and Tajikistan.
Even better. Well, I don't know if I can. I don't want to take the chance on crashing this computer because right. Yeah, if you want to do that, I was going to pull up.
I could just reach over. But I just reach over right here and I got it. Because it's near and dear to my heart. Here you go.
Look at that. So tilt it where the glare.
Yeah,
is.
let's see. Let's see if I can. Let's see if I can.
There you go. When you pull it to okay, now show us where exactly all this is. Where are you
Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan is right here.
Yep.
Okay. Actually Uzbekistan is trivia question of the night. It is the only double landlocked country on the planet. In other words, you have to go through 2 countries to get to the water.
Wow.
And it's the only one in the world that's like that.
Wow.
But we're not including the Caspian Sea here. But yeah, because even like something like Tibet is right next to China. So all you got to do is go from Tibet to China, and then you're at the ocean, you see? So it's only single landlocked. But Uzbekistan is the only double landlocked country on the planet. And I was in Tajikistan, which is over here.
Right,
is just a little bit to the east, and it's right and it's right above
you're off
Afghanistan.
You're off camera there, and people can't see it. See if you can.
See, Uzbekistan is here, and Tajikistan is right here.
Ah,
see. Now, the thing about you have to understand about these countries, the thing that's messed up is that
they come and go.
Yeah, but it's that the Soviets. See, the Soviets made these. They're very cynical when they design their borders. They didn't want to put all the Uzbeks in Uzbekistan because that might encourage independence or people saying, you know what, we want to be independent. So instead they drew borders so that like half of Tajikistan is Uzbek and half of Uzbekistan is Tajik and part of Kyrgyzstan is Kazakh. They drew the borders to deliberately have like a permanent, like everyone's got like 20% minorities, and then basically they would want the Red Army there to help keep order.
Ah.
See, but then what happened was when in '91, when they became independent, this thing which kept them in the Soviet Union turned out it's like everyone was walking around with, a bacillus inside of them. And so like Tajikistan exploded into civil war in the early 90s that went on for about 5 years. And Uzbekistan had its share of problems too. The big terrorist group, and it still exists, the big terrorist group in Uzbekistan is the Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan, and it's been around since like '99. When I was in the CIA, this was a big part of my job. I was in Tajikistan in '03, so we were in Afghanistan, and believe it or not, a lot of the fighters we were fighting in Afghanistan were ethnic Uzbeks, and some of them had actually come from Uzbekistan to fight, and other ones were ethnic Uzbeks who happened to live in Afghanistan. And they were all parts of they were affiliated with maybe Al Qaeda, but the IMU had signed a deal as a co-partner with Al Qaeda. So
let me ask you this real quick. Were we responsible for some of that, just like we were with the Mujahideen, of getting these people in to fight with Russia, or were we responsible for any of that? Or how did they end up there?
No, I mean, no, not at all. Because what happened was, look, the Soviets, I guess you'll say one thing for them is that, the Russians don't fool around. They suppressed Islam very much so, okay? They kept a real tight lid on it. And so, of course, when these countries became independent, there was suddenly a little bit more freedom.
Right.
But the problem is, in all these countries, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, the leadership of these countries were former Soviet governors, basically.
Right.
So they were Soviet guys. They may have a name like Abdul Rahmanov, but they are, and they may be technically Muslim, but they weren't. They were Soviet men. They were kind of atheistic. They might go to the mosque to look good for the people, but they didn't really care about that stuff. But the minute they saw some more of their people, maybe because of poverty or whatever, turning to Islam, they started getting a little worried. And in the dictator, basically president for life, he just died. His name is Karimov in Uzbekistan. He did things like he made it illegal for men to have beards in Uzbekistan. Because if you had a beard, you were obviously a potential jihadist.
Right.
So he just said, guess what? All beards are illegal in my country for some time. And so basically the IMU was basically kill Karimov. That was the mission. kill Karimov for like 15 years. And basically try to create a Sharia law country. So they started this in the late 90s. So it was before 9/11, and so there were constant attacks and constant bombings, suicide bombings and things like that. And then when the Tajik civil war was flaring up around the mid 90s, a lot of because that was a civil war, basically a similar civil war. It was like the ex-Soviet governors, those people, versus the newly awakened Muslim group, and there was a civil war between those two. So of course the IMU said, okay, well, we're going to side with our brother, Islamists in Tajikistan, and so a lot of them went to Tajikistan to help in the war there, and then a lot of them wound up a little bit south in Afghanistan to do the same thing when by the time 9/11 rolled around and stuff. Because remember, Afghanistan was having a lot of problems before 9/11. And there was I forget the
Can you move to your right just a little bit? Your whole body, move to your right, and then take that map with you. Now pull the map. There you go, perfect.
Right.
There.
So
there you go.
The Northern Alliance was an alliance that was against basically fighting against the Islamists in Afghanistan, and so the IMU was on the opposite side against the Northern Alliance, and all this stuff is kind of dated now, but it's important to understand this stuff. So the IMU, after Al-Qaeda ISIS came up, the IMU kind of signed a deal with ISIS. And so, but the thing to remember is just that there is a lot of extremism there is some extremism in Uzbekistan. And there's an area over here, you can't even, on the map it's hard to see, but there's an area here, and it's called the Fergana Valley. And it is a hotbed of Islamist activity. So people can Google that, Fergana, Fergana Valley. And the Fergana Valley is part Uzbekistan, it's part Kyrgyzstan. It's kind of crazy. It's all mixed up. And literally, there are little islands that are part of the other country. So it would be like in the middle of New York, there's a little blob, and it's actually part of Canada. Or a little blob in Texas that's actually, a round area of 10 miles across, and it's actually part of Mexico, but it's not contiguous with Mexico.
Right.
So this is what we're talking about here. It's really messed up. But the Fergana Valley was always a hotbed of activity. And there was actually a massacre there. I don't know, probably in the early 2000s. There were a lot of Islamists, but of course, people down. Terrorists or not, they're getting shot up. So I think 300 people were killed in Fergana Valley.
Wow.
So we always we were kind of cooperating with Uzbekistan, anti-terrorist stuff, but at the same time knowing that he's labeling a lot of people terrorists who maybe aren't terrorists. He's labeling them terrorists when they're actually just political opposition he wants to eliminate.
Right.
But anyway, so this is the kind of place where this guy comes from. So I did read some stuff online that said that he had been to the Fergana Valley. He was born in Tashkent, which is the capital, which, believe it or not, was like the fourth largest city in the former Soviet Union. It's a big city, Tashkent, and I've been there several times. But he had visited the Fergana Valley. So is it possible that he was a Muslim before, certainly.
Right.
Is it possible that when he came over to America that he had the idea of being a terrorist? Maybe not. Was it possible he'd been radicalized a little bit? It's possible. Mm-hmm. But I think I would also say, for some liberal who would say, oh, well, see, Scott, he wasn't a terrorist before he came over here. But if you look at the diversity visa program, they allowed people in the country who basically didn't have a snowball's chance of getting into the United States without this diversity program.
Right.
So they allowed people in who basically had a minimal of training. I think this guy studied to be an accountant or something. He was working in a hotel. Saipov, the terrorist. So they allowed these people in the country, into the United States, who really had no business being here. Now, there are most Uzbeks speak Russian. Okay, the younger ones who don't remember the Soviet Union, they're not going to speak Russian as well. So this guy was one of those. So in other words, instead of interviewing people and saying, I want to take the Uzbek into America who spent some time as a high school exchange student, speaks good English, is educated, etc., let's bring him into and they'll become, a good American. Instead, we let people who are very marginal come in under this diversity program. And so his Russian wasn't even very good. So it's not like the guy could hang out in Brighton Beach even and communicate that well. He just spoke Uzbek. And his English was, I guess, really bad too. That, of course, speaking English is no criteria for getting in on the diversity visa. We just, whatever, learn English on the flight over, just come on in. So what I'm saying is, you get a guy who's brought into America who barely speaks English, can't communicate even in Russian to like a lot of the Russian speakers, let's say in the New York area. And so he's pretty isolated, right? He's just an isolated guy because he's not educated, so he can't get a decent job. He can't communicate with the people around him. So what I'm saying is, you're setting this guy up in a way because you've taken somebody who just should have stayed in Uzbekistan, because you're taking him into America. Mm-hmm. You're setting the guy up in a way. I'm not saying it is totally his fault. I'm not saying it's our fault at all. But what I'm saying is, you don't do stuff like this. You don't let somebody in who's like, barely competent, who can't speak English at all, and expect he's going to sit home and be a nice American. Instead, he probably knew friends who were radicalized. He probably maybe had a cousin or something who was radicalized. And he certainly was Muslim when he came here. And then he started, because the only people he could befriend maybe were fellow Uzbeks who were maybe extremists. And so then he fell in and he got brainwashed by them, and now he's a killer.
Right.
See, so no matter how you slice it, this guy shouldn't have been here. The diversity visa thing is a disaster. And it's been around, by the way, for like 25 years. Or actually 30. It's been around since 1986. But it allows up to 50,000 people a year to be brought in. So basically, probably today, a couple of dozen people under that visa could have been brought in the United States, because it hasn't been stopped yet.
Right, and when you add to that the amount of people that have been brought over and not screened properly, and the amount of people that were brought over that were connected to terrorist or battlefield attacks in Afghanistan and Iraq, right, where they weren't communicating with the DOD, State Department wasn't communicating with the DOD, and so they don't know with the biometrics. That information that goes into biometrics was never put into the other databases. So somebody comes over and they're not screened.
Right, and that's the other thing is that again, as Americans, we just assume, of course, the Uzbeks are like Germany. Well, no, they're not. What I'm saying is, these countries are pretty backward and they're incredibly poor. So, like, if you're assuming that you're just going to, like, get this guy's birth certificate or be able to check on this guy's background, even if the Uzbek government wants to cooperate with you, they just don't have the resources or the technical ability. They just don't have information on anybody, because it's just not the way they roll. They can't do it. And that's if they're being cooperative. If they're not being cooperative, then you got a real problem. But I mean, even people cooperating, they don't keep track of this stuff. I'll give you an example. I've known a lot of Uzbeks, and actually, generally speaking, I liked them as a people. Like, I get along with them. They were very nice when I always visited there. They weren't used to seeing Americans who could speak Russian, so I could communicate with them. But I remember one Uzbek telling me he had spent some time in jail, and he had maybe run into some basically jihadists, some guys who had maybe fought against maybe in Tajikistan or maybe even in Afghanistan against U.S. forces. I know some guys who were locked up in an Uzbek prison. And it was like, it was like a basketball court, and there's like literally 300 guys in the prison, like 300 guys, and it's like you got to lay on your side to go to bed at night.
Oh my Lord!
But yeah, they don't have cable TV in Uzbek prison. Trust me on that one. So what he said was he actually talked to men who didn't even know what year they were born. Like, if you asked them, so when were you born? They literally would answer, I was born the year that the watermelon crop was really good. And that was how they measured time. They didn't even know what year they were born.
That sounds like The Hobbit. Like, I'm whatever their name is, son of so and so, and that's how they know who you are because of your lineage.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a really primitive, in a lot of ways, a really primitive society. But this whole thing, I mean, and of course you probably have talked about it. Mayor De Blasio, this incompetent fool, doing things like terminating the NYPD's program of basically constitutionally monitoring people. Like, basically, if you've got a lead or something like that, you're allowed to work them even if they go inside of a mosque. Oh, but we can't do that.
Right.
So he's got blood on his hands too. And these judges who, when the Hawaiian judge, is it the Ninth Circuit Court or something, when they came out against Trump's quote Muslim ban, which was not, it was a ban against countries, right?
Right.
They blocked it, and I believe that this was in those same things that Trump was setting up, these new rules and regulations, they were getting rid of the diversity lottery. But by basically these stupid judges in Hawaii standing in the way of safety,
right?
Well, we still have that going on. Okay, now I know this guy came in 2010 under Obama. It wouldn't have changed anything. But how do we know how many bad guys have entered the country since Trump became president? We don't.
We don't know. And that's the other thing, is that I can't figure out what the politicians, I know what the nefarious people are thinking on getting these people in, but are the politicians really thinking, are they allowing this and saying it's a numbers game, that maybe 1 out of 1,000,000 will be bad and we'll deal with that terrorist attack, and then but we'll still have 1,000,000 or 999,000 people that will vote Democrat? Is that are they that nefarious that they would think?
I mean,
that?
it is hard to grasp. I mean, look, I'm running for office myself, so but I think that a lot of times it's just people are ignorant, that the congressmen are ignorant, or they just don't understand that the consequences of some of their actions. I mean, you've got to clamp down on this stuff. Yeah. Don't be surprised when people wake up dead. I mean, no one seems to have a fire under their ass. What I'm saying is you got to make decisions here. Politicians are used to not making decisions, about sitting around, and that way they don't anybody off on either side because they don't make a decision. Mm-hmm. But I'm sorry, you've got to make decisions, and it's going to piss some people off, but maybe you're going to keep some more people alive. And the first duty of any federal government in any country is keep your own people safe.
Right.
If you can't do that, then just go home. So this is just another reminder for me, like, why I'm running for office, because this stuff has got to stop. And I'll be the one in Congress to educate the ones around me and say, look, this is serious stuff and you can't put it off. It's got to be dealt with now.
Yeah. Man, it makes me want to run for Congress. I mean, just think if we had 25 people like you and I there.
Right. Exactly. People who understand, who have the fire under their ass to understand that these are, you're talking about people's lives here.
Yeah.
How many people's lives have been destroyed now, whether they're Argentinian, Belgian, or American? Because somebody didn't want to tick some bureaucrat off by saying, yeah, this diversity lottery is a load of garbage. And by the way, Schumer is quoted as saying, he thought it was really nice. He rode on a bicycle in his neighborhood and he just thought the diversity, like, it was a really nice thing, or something horrible. I posted on Twitter,
Well, we even had a Republican, I think he's a representative from New York. Let me pull this up, because he wasn't trying to say anything mean, but he was saying that, I mean, this is how uninformed that these people are. And Representative Collins from New York City, and he said that it was impossible. He said this like 3 times. It's impossible to stop these type of attacks that happened yesterday. It's impossible. It's impossible. And I was like, it's not impossible if you empower the people, right, and how to react. If you empower the authorities and how to look for the soft areas and the vulnerabilities that can be exploited, so they can mitigate these things, the chances are you're going to save lives.
That's right.
And they may attempt it. It may not be able to stop everybody from attempting it, but it's going to be so mitigated that the death is going to be 0 or low.
Right, and if that and that extra, being on alert, like your book talks about, or anything like that. But if that manages to save half a dozen lives a year, well, I think there'd be half a dozen mothers that would be pretty happy about that.
Okay, so there's some breaking news right now. It says multiple parties are down. We're trying to ascertain their locations in Colorado at a Walmart. There's been multiple people shot. Now, it's Walmart and it's in Colorado. I can't say, we have nothing to say whether or not that's terrorism or not, but we shall see. We will keep monitoring this.
I mean, right. I guess a lot of times these things do come in waves, these terrorist attacks. It's a history of that. And they work, I guess ISIS and some of their propaganda was calling on attacks to occur around the time of Halloween. And you could have some people emboldened by that. What happened in New York City, right? I mean, it's a possibility, I guess. Yeah, we'll see. It certainly could have been a lot worse. I think somebody said that he drove 17 blocks.
Yeah. And
thank God it's actually a miracle he killed as few people as he did if he was going hell for leather for 17 blocks.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I ride on that bike path quite a bit, and
and your scooter,
with my scooter, and there's not a lot of traffic there during the day at certain times, but there is right there because there's a school right there.
Right.
And so I talked to, on David Webb Show today, we talked to a woman who was down there, and she was going to get her daughter, and she heard the crash of the truck. She turned around, thought somebody had crashed. She didn't think, oh, somebody must be goofing around. She thought there was a crash, and she was going to move towards it to see if she could help. And some students come running towards her, and they're like, he's got a gun, he's got a gun. And so that's when she jumped in a cab, and they got out of there. That's the way you should react to it, you know.
Right.
But anyway, anything else? Do you want to talk about your congressional race yet? Do you want to talk about any of that stuff?
Sure. Yeah, I'm officially in the race now. I'm running. For the people listening, I'm running for Congress in the Pennsylvania 15th district. I live on the outskirts of Allentown, Pennsylvania, and it's a conservative district. And the guy who's the congressman is kind of like Flake and the guy in Tennessee, the senators, Corker. He's not seeking re-election because he's been against the Trump agenda from the get-go, and people are basically getting pissed off in this district. And his numbers are going south. He said, you know what? I'm not going to come out a loser. I'm just not going to seek re-election. So it's an open race, and that was when I decided to get in about 2 months ago. So things are looking good. You know, I'm getting the word out, and of course it's very early still. The primary would be in May. But the people I'll be running against in the primary, 2 of them are literally 33-year-old state reps who've done nothing but go to college and go to the State House in Harrisburg. Mm-hmm. So for some perspective, John, these guys were in high school on 9/11. Wow. They were in high school on 9/11. So,
you know, here's the thing, dude. If I was running for something and that's all my credentials were, and you came on, I would literally bow out of the race, and I would say, let's give all the money to this guy. Let's get him elected.
Except for one thing. See, they are professional politicians.
Exactly.
And see, there's two of them, and they're like, I came in a little bit later. Mm-hmm. They were in from the beginning. I mean, like 3 months ago, they were in the race. I came in 2 months ago. And you know what both of these guys have done? They're state reps. They have at least announced that they're not going to seek re-election for their state rep position. So in other words, they're letting go of the safety bar, mm-hmm. and they're free floating as they run. I would not have recommended that to them, because I'll be like, listen, pal, you're both going to lose and I'm going to win, and you're going to be stuck with it, nothing, living in your parents' basement or something.
Well, I'm not that far away, so anything I can do to help, come out there, speak, do whatever, you just let me know and I'm there.
Sure. And then, folks can, everyone can donate, certainly donate to my campaign. Some women who heard me on David Webb, like some woman in Farmer's Wife in Kansas sent me $50. So that's great. The site is www.scott4forpa.com, and people can donate. And so, I'm in fundraising mode now, but everything's looking good. And,
how much do you have to raise? I think the people are going to be very interested to know how much do you have to raise, the process, how does it work?
I mean, basically what my team, I have a bunch of real experts, and they were running, helping Trump win in Florida, basically. Mm-hmm. But, they're talking, I have to raise at least $500,000. Wow. $500,000 by let's say February, something like that, at least, because that's what you got to do nowadays. So but luckily there are a lot of political action committees that are very supportive of veterans, supportive of people who support the MAGA, Make America Great Again mm-hmm. agenda. So that will come, and then individuals donate too, and I've had some people give me some very nice donations, to the campaign, who are like local businessmen who are basically like a lot of your listeners. They're tired of politicians, and they're tired of politics as usual, and they like the idea of a veteran and a non-politician running for office. And that's what really resonates with people. When I say, hey, I'm not a politician and I'm a veteran, they're like, all right, you got my vote, pal.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Because somebody who's walked the walk like we all have, and, and I understand we both understand the implications of being a congressman. And something like this, or what happens in Iran or North Korea, this isn't a game. I mean, this is not time for amateur hour. Mm-hmm. It's time to send somebody down, send people to Congress who have a background of success in something, whether it's business, whether it's in the military, whether it's doing something else instead of just politics, and somebody who can maybe bring some expertise in from day one. And we talked about, the show The Experts, right? So at least when it comes to national security stuff, I will be an expert from day one.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Yeah, so.
We'll see how that works out when you get up there.
We'll be talking a lot more about it, and I'll continue to talk to you after I'm a congressman, because I'm not going to change. I'm 53 and quite set in my ways. So.
Well, it's good to know that you're older than I am, and so you have that on me as well.
Right. And look, I'm wearing my Navy.
I see that. I got to get one of those. Everybody keeps calling me fat. I guess it's the angle tonight. My head looks round. All the trolls, it's the first thing they go after. They always call me a bald, fat F. You know, they always love to say that. I don't know. All right, buddy, listen, anytime you want to come on here, let me know. And I think people got a great lesson about that area over there and the reality of the really, what's the word I'm looking for here? The almost indigenous type of mindset and education level and stuff that goes on over there.
Right, exactly. You have to understand the culture you're dealing with. Right, exactly. It's important.
All right. God bless you, brother. And again, I'm sure you're going to continue to have a busy week as well, especially if this Walmart thing turns out to be anything.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, take care, brother.
All right, man. You got it. Bye. All right, guys. Scott Ehrlinger right there. I'll hang up, Scott, if I can get my mouse over here. All right, I got two computers going at the same time. All right, buddy, thank you very much, and we will we'll see you next time.
Okay, bye-bye.
There you go, folks. I think that's closing. All right. Gosh, the trolls, man, they are busy on. I'm sorry to Scott, because while he was talking, I was having to deal with some of these trolls. I was listening. I've learned to multitask now, and while I'm talking, but sad. It's really sad how there's no telling who these people actually are or what they're really like. Losers, complete losers, whatever. I just don't like. I don't care what they say about me, but I don't like when they attack people that are good Americans that come on and want to have good dialogue. That frustrates me quite a bit. So, let's see here. Let me screw these stupid trolls. Yeah, they'll get blocked eventually. It's just I don't have time to do it while I'm doing it. But you guys can. I found this out. If you all report them, if you click on them and report them, I think they disappear off of this the chat. I'm not sure if that works or not, but I think that actually happens. So here's the thing. We don't know what's happening at Walmart yet. We're just getting those reports now. So I can't really comment too much on that. I don't even see it on foxnews.com. So let me switch to an A block, and I'm just going to get out of here real quick here in just a minute because I think we've gone plenty long. That was a good long understanding of that region by Scott Ehrlinger. Let me take his name off there. And so let's go to the A block. I'll do my commercial. I'm going to come back and I want to talk about John McCain real quick.
How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.
All right, so I got to pull up this story about John McCain. Hopefully I didn't close it out, because evidently John McCain decided to go on a rampage about, and I can't remember who sent this to me, or if it was on Twitter. Let me just look it up here and see if I can. Oh, here it is. Okay. So John McCain tells, refresh. He tells Annapolis midshipmen. Now, I'm going to try not to get boiled over on this, but John McCain told the brigade of midshipmen at the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, that there must be no more isolationism, no more America first. He then jumped right into talking about fascism of World War II, and he also referenced his open borders platform. Now, I've completely forgot what I was going to do there. If I hadn't mentioned John McCain, you would have thought that I was talking about George Soros. So
I'm just going to say a few things now, and I'm going to try to be politically correct, although I don't really give two craps about political correctness anymore. John McCain, and I've said it over and over again, is a national security threat to this country. He is a I don't know if he's a spy, if he is just in league with these globalists, if he's really a communist. It's some point in time, maybe even far back as when he was held hostage, became an operative for the Communist Party. I don't know when it occurred, but the things that he says and does are so far beyond what a patriot, a constitutionalist would say, so far beyond that it doesn't just borderline communism. If you look at what he was saying here, no more America first, no more isolationism. When he's accusing us of being, Trump of being an isolationist, instead of just taking care of the country first. I mean, that's what we're here. We don't exist in this country doesn't exist for the benefit of others. It exists for the benefit of its citizenry. And then if we can help out the rest of the world, we do that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing weak about that. John McCain, I don't want to be mean and say I wish John McCain would just die already. Listen, I hope that God gives him enough life left on this earth where he sees the reality. I don't think his mind is in the right place, and I think John McCain has been lying to us all along, and he's emboldened now because look, I've been with my father when he was dying. All right, I've seen people die up close, and when people get close to death, especially if they're chronically narcissists like John McCain, they actually act a lot different than you would think. They become bigger jerks. They become, or they can, I'm not saying they necessarily do, but somebody who's narcissist and is approaching death, they can become more outspoken, more aggressive, bigger jerks, and their true colors will start to be revealed because it's kind of like a star, you know, out in space when they're collapsing on themselves, and then there's this big burst of massive energy, and that's, I think, is what's happening to John McCain. He is a nefarious individual. He is a liar to the American people, and I believe somewhere along the way, I don't know if it was recently or if, like I said before, it was when he was in the arms of the Communist Party when he was held captive, but somewhere along the way, I think John McCain became a communist. And I think he's been lying to the people all along. That's just my take on it. But this infuriates me. I'm not going to let my blood pressure get high. I think that John McCain should go away. I think he is a disgrace. I think that he should be... I don't know if there's any way to impeach the guy, but I just think that he should not be in the position that he's in anymore. He's not competent, and he's a liar to his constituents. He's a liar to the American people, and he is a national security threat. John McCain needs to go away. Period. So, if death comes a knocking on John McCain's door, I pray that he knows the Lord, and I pray that he has done whatever the Lord sent him here to do, and then I pray that he leaves abruptly. I'll leave it at that. He's a freaking disgrace. All right, so I'm going to... if something else comes out about this shooting, maybe I'll do a Facebook Live about it. I don't know. I'm not seeing anything yet at this point. So... why don't I do the Truth Zone, since I'm getting tons of emails and calls about this, and then I will come back on here if it's something big. All right. As you can see, my eyes, I'm tired. Evidently, I look puffy tonight because all the trolls are telling me I look fat. All right. All right, there you go. Now I look a little bit more in shape. It's because I got this new comfy chair from my mysterious chair angel. The other chair I was using was killer. And I don't mean killer as in, yo, it was dope. I mean, it was killer like it was killing my circulation in my legs. So, better now. Thank you. All right, let's go to the truth zone, shall we? And we'll close this puppy out. Stand by 1 second here.
How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.
Well, I'm supposed to hit the truth zone thing there. I'm all over the place tonight. There's just so much going on. I've been all over. Tonight's going to be a good night's sleep, and I'm going to regroup tomorrow. Tomorrow's show ought to be good. I may or may not do a Friday show just because I've got to finish this audiobook. The book, as of right now, has gone skyrocketing back up to the top of the charts as of this week, or as of today. A lot of that is in part due to you all. And it's not even out yet until December, but people are starting to get the word that they need to buy this book. They need to buy several of them to give to other people, because what you're going to see in this book is you're going to gain the ability to target yourself. I was just looking at my computer. I was thinking about bringing a part of it up here, but I'm going to wait and do that. Okay, so we're going to go over this book once it comes out. It is imperative for what happened down there, people that may end up being in a soft area. You may not even know it. We talked about this on the show the other day. The same way you get caught up in being in a target in a soft area, it's the same way this country is becoming an easy target for people because of these policies that people like Chuck Schumer and all these other John McCain's, the globalists, the communists, the nefarious, narcissistic people in Washington, D.C. are killing this country with bad policy and not saying what the enemy is. If you're a free American, let's start there. If you're Christian, if you're Jewish, if you're Buddhist, if you're Muslim, if you're gay or straight, black or white, Asian, forget about those things. You are an American. I know your religion comes first. I know you should always put God first, right? I understand that. But in times like this, where you live and coexist in a country, you better start to question whether or not your religion is capable of coexisting. And if there is a fundamental structure to your religion that is not allowing it to coexist, you better do one of two things. You better change it, or you better get ready for a fight. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care how narcissistic you are or how much you want this and you think it's best for the people. If it is causing problems within this country and it goes against the very Constitution and there is a cancer running through it, you better stop and have a reality check. You must stop and have a reality check. Otherwise, folks, we're not going to have World War III. We're going to have that civil war that everybody's been talking about. Except it may not be between liberals and conservatives. It may be between Islam and the rest of the citizenry. The way we avoid all of this is if we realize, first and foremost, we're Americans, and in other countries you're not going to have the freedom to worship, the freedom to live, the freedom to practice what you want, date who you want, make what you want. It's not going to be there. So to all the trolls that are out there, you can kiss my behind. I'm Jonathan Gillum. My good buddy Rico, bless his little heart, laying right here. This is The Experts. And I'll see you tomorrow, right here, 8 p.m. Remember this: the truth has arrived. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.